Dog Talk here from Dogs on Demand on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Our program is brought to you by Southeast Mortgage, the official home loan lender of the defending national champion Georgia Bulldogs, soon to be back to back national champions. How about them dogs? Who let the dogs out? There you go. And all the dog references that we can come up with. Welcome to our program tonight. Yeah, it's oh boy, the days are counting down, the hours are counting down until Georgia takes on Ohio State in the Peach Bowl coming up this New Year's Eve, this coming Saturday. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. We've been off for a few days. Haven't been far away, but it's been Christmas time. Spent some Christmas time with the family. Hope you and your family had a wonderful time for Christmas. We did at the Hall House. We did some traveling, visited with family, had a tremendous time, and thankfully stayed thawed out. We did our best to keep everything under control as far as the cold was concerned in our water pipes, and we were successful. It took a few days off. But here we go. We're back here on a Thursday night, and I know that Florida State is playing right now against who are they playing? Florida State and Oklahoma right now. I think they're pretty well tied up in that game. Bryce, how you doing, my man? Merry Christmas to you. Yes, sir. Go Dogs. We're going to talk a little bit about the University of Georgia tonight. Some things happening with the Bulldogs. Hey, Miss Deborah, how are you? Good to have you on with us tonight. Now, if you have a question or comment tonight, and I've been thinking all day about making a prediction for the Georgia-Ohio State game. I just been contemplating upon it, thinking about it, and I don't know if I'm ready yet, but I've got a number in mind. In fact, I'm going to sound like one of those magicians, don't I? Write that number down, and I'll guess what it is. I've got a number in mind, so I'm going to do. How does that look? My producer can see that. How do I know that's the prediction I make for every game for Georgia. Oh me. So anyway, but if you have a prediction for this game coming up on Saturday, we'd love for you to jump in here and give us your prediction on the game coming up. We have some notes for you tonight. Going to talk about some things coming that's come out today about the game coming up on Saturday between Georgia and Ohio State. And we'll also talk about that Michigan and TCU game as well. I don't have a prediction on that one yet. But listen, between now and the game on Saturday, we're going to be having a lot of content for you, trying to keep you up to date on what is happening with Georgia and Ohio State as we anticipate and approach this great game. By the way, we had a wonderful podcast today. We recorded it, and it's being processed and put up even as we speak with Champ Bailey. Champ Bailey, of course, Hall of Famer, college football Hall of Famer, pro football Hall of Famer. He's in the Peach Bowl Hall of Fame. He's in the Georgia-Florida Football Hall of Fame. He's in the Georgia High School Football Hall of Fame. He's in the Georgia Sports Hall of Fame. He's in almost every Hall of Fame you can think of that has to do with football, and he had something, to do with that particular brand of football. We had a wonderful podcast with Champ Bailey, and the cool thing is that Champ Bailey now, he's the honorary captain for the University of Georgia for the game coming up on Saturday. And I asked him, well, what exactly does that mean? What is your responsibilities? And you can listen to his response. It was quite interesting what it means to be the honorary captain of the University of Georgia. One thing it means is that Champ Bailey will be at the center of the field when the coin toss happens. And Ohio State has an honorary captain as well, and I forget that guy's name. Champ Bailey, of course, who is a part of Dogs on Demand. We had a wonderful podcast with him. Be looking for that. You can go to our website, dogsondemand.com. You can find the audio version of our podcast there at our website, and you can go to our Facebook page. Obviously, you're there for Dogs on Demand, and our Instagram page and our Twitter page. as well. And you can find parts of that interview that will be posted later tonight with Champ Bailey, the Hall of Famer. We've got some other guys checking in. Mike, how you doing, my friend? Go Bulldogs team. Absolutely. Deborah K is checking in with us. I believe Georgia will win back-to-back championships. I believe that as well. And Matthew Hall checking in with us as well. So I go ahead and give you my prediction. I've studied on this thing, and my producer makes fun of me. He says, "That's your prediction for every game that Georgia plays." Well, it works. Every time I make this prediction, Georgia wins. Now, Georgia may not win by the score, that I predict, but they win. So I'm going to pick Georgia 34 and Ohio State 17. that's 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 what I predicted. That was my projected score for Alabama and Georgia in the national championship game last year, and it worked every time. 34-17, and Georgia wins. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So I'm going with Georgia winning 34-17. Now, to be honest with you, you can search all over media pages now for news about Georgia and Ohio State, and so much of it is redundant. Listen, the can is in the bag. It's time to play the game. There's not much, news that's going to come out, especially after today, because pretty much the teams are going to go into seclusion after today and Friday and Saturday. They'll be making their final preparation. So you won't hear, it's just, but there's a frenzy for information. So you get a lot of redundant information. So we have some things about the game coming up, but listen, it's time to play it. It's time to put the chin strap on. It's time for toe to meet leather. It's time to play the game. And so, but we have some news and notes for you coming up in just a moment. Hey, Miss Teresa, how are you? Go Dogs, indeed. Now, Bryce has he has a prediction. Georgia 42, Ohio State 24. I like it. I like it. And by the way, Georgia is a 6-point favorite, or 6.5 point. That's been pretty consistent ever since this matchup was determined. Georgia is a 6.5 point favorite over Ohio State, but there's a lot of, I don't know if you'd call it buzz, or there's a lot of stuff coming out now from different corners of the college football world, and and a lot of them are saying Ohio State's going to win this game. So even though Georgia is a favorite, you're getting a lot of media. Michael Cunningham, who writes for the Atlanta Journal and Constitution, I think does he? I think. Well, I know he does. He does it. I know he's with the Atlantic. But he says Ohio State's going to win. Some other media outlets are saying that. Grady, how you doing, my man? Grady Darcy, our good friend, our good guy. Frank Marshall, or I'm sorry, Frank Mossoff. Is that how you say that? Mossoff. He says Dogs 21-17. Now that may, to be honest with you, put that one back up there. Frank, now that I think about it, that could very well be, it could be that tight. 21-17. I like that. I'm still going to go with 34-17 because that's what I always predict. And Georgia wins every time I predict that. So I have to do my part. I have to do my part. No, Gary Danielson will not. This is an ESPN game. So you're going to have Kirk Herbstreit and who's the other guy? Yeah, you're going to get ESPN's A+ team. No Gary Danielson for this game. You're going to have, let's see, who was it? Anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. So no, you don't have to worry about Gary Danielson being on the mic for this game. Bryce says, I hate to have a game like we did versus Clemson. Oh, yeah, the tight game. See, I'm already nervous. Oh, thank God. Yeah, I know. Gary Danielson, the announcer we love to dislike. We don't hate anybody around here. We just, maybe not particularly care for somebody. As far and now Gary Danielson, by the way, he's a good guy. He's a good guy. He's done a lot of good for a lot of people. He's just a little irritating sometimes when it comes to broadcasting Georgia games. So, that's all right. I know I can be irritating as well. Um, let's see. Let's talk a little bit about some news coming out. But to be honest with you, there's not a whole lot of like news. Bryce wants to know what refs do we have. That's interesting. I don't know. Um, I don't know. You might have a mixture of Big Ten and SEC refs. Usually, they try to keep the referee teams together. They don't usually like put you know try to match them up. But hey, you could have an ACC team. You could have a team of officials. You could have a Big 12, Pac 12. I don't know. We'll have to research that. We got our crack staff to research that. Some news out of the Georgia camp. Good news today. A couple of items that were, good news for Georgia today. Defensive lineman Jalen Carter, who's been dealing with a nagging ankle injury that kind of limited him for the first half of the season, says he is 100%, and a 100% Jalen Carter is good news for the University of Georgia. He says he's ready to go. He feels great, 100%. Now, he had a rough first half of the season because he was injured, but the second half, listen, the second half of the season for Georgia, Jalen Carter had in the last half of the season 24 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles over 6 games. And of course, who will ever forget him picking up Jalen Daniels, the quarterback for LSU, and then sticking his finger. I mean, what possesses a guy to do that? But you know, he's great. Yes, sir. Adele, that is good news that Jalen's going to be in there. And by the way, Todd McShay kind of cast some shadow on Jalen Carter's, um, character. But I got to ask you. I mean, I got to tell you that people have come to the defense of Jalen Carter, and Todd McShay has really took some grief over that. Just that comment that there was some concerns about his character. As far as his teammates are concerned, and the coaches, there is no concern over Jalen Carter's character that might affect his spot in the upcoming draft. He's projected to be number 1 or number 2 in the upcoming draft. But they say, no, Jalen Carter's a great guy, great teammate, and there's no question about his character. It could be that some NFL guy kind of whispered in Todd McShay's ear, trying to cast, maybe some question about Jalen Carter so that his team can have a better chance of drafting Jalen Carter. Yeah, it could be something like that. Teresa says, fair game. All we ask, keep all the players and staff of both teams from injuries. Yes. The game will be a nail biter and keep us on the edge. Oh, boy. I know. See, I know. We're going to be here for the game. Now, it's at 8 o'clock. It's at 8 o'clock, for heaven's sakes, on New Year's Eve. And for Georgia, for our neck of the woods, big, huge chance of rain. So you got New Year's Eve and you got this football game and you got rain coming in. But we're going to be here with you on Dogs on Demand. You can check in with us. We'll be here throughout the day. We'll kind of do a preview of the Michigan and TCU game, and then we'll be here for the beginning, the middle, and the end of the Georgia game. And we might be celebrating a Georgia win in the new year. The end of the game may come simultaneous with a new year. We'll have to wait and see. Hey, Joe, my man, go Dogs, indeed. Go Dogs. Teresa, that's free from injuries. Yes, absolutely. We understand. Damon, my man, how you doing? Yes, sir. Damon's a great friend of ours. He's up in Virginia. Hardworking man. Hardworking man. Of course, he is an Alabama fan, but that's all right. He's a good friend of mine. See, listen, this is what my daddy taught me. He said, my dad was a World War II veteran. He was a great guy, tremendous character. He taught me a lot. But he loved sports. You know, he loved sports. He loved all kinds of sports, football, baseball, basketball, the whole shooting match. And I get my love of sports a great deal from my dad. He said, look now, you know, when you're playing the other team is not your enemy. Don't look at the other team as your enemy. Look at them as your opponent. Okay. You know, don't look at them as your enemy. They're not your enemy. It's a game. They are your opponent, and you want to beat your opponent. But words to live by. And I always try to, keep that in mind as well. Hey, Dale, how you doing? Happy New Year to everyone. Go Dogs. Hey, we're counting it down. It's not far. So Jalen Carter's going to be, he's 100%. Now the game is obviously Saturday. Georgia against Ohio State. Kickoff is at 8:00 Eastern time. It'll be on ESPN. And the 4:00 game will be Michigan and TCU from Glendale, Arizona, in the Fiesta Bowl. By the way, we had an interview with the president and CEO of the Peach Bowl, Gary Stocken. And Gary said that the Fiesta Bowl was born out of the Peach Bowl. And we'll get to that story sometime, but it's kind of interesting. There is a connection between the two. There was some intrigue. Oh, some intrigue having to do with the Peach Bowl. Did you hear about this? There was a rumor floating around that Georgia, the University of Georgia, somebody connected with Georgia, had put hidden cameras in strategic places to record Ohio State's practice, some of the practice sessions for Ohio State. You know, that was a rumor. That was a real rumor, you know, that Georgia had put up some hidden cameras to record Ohio State practice sessions. Kirby Smart said it's ludicrous. It's ridiculous. I don't know what you're talking about. You know, Todd Monken, he kind of joked about it. He says, well, he hopes that the Bulldogs have been in the Buckeyes hotel and logged into their computers as well. He was kind of playing around. But somebody, and I don't know the source, but apparently somebody does know the source, and they say, well, you can expect that from somebody trying to stir up something. But, you know, there's no truth to the rumor. Georgia does not need to put up cameras in, you know, to record Ohio State practices. To quote Kirby Smart, Georgia will not be the hunted. Georgia will be the hunters. And hunters don't need that. Sound like John Wayne. So there's no truth to that. Grady says Buckeyes are nuts. Well, they are. Very good, Grady. I see what you did there, son. Yes, sir. Let's see. Oh, we got some more good news today. Georgia running back Kendall Milton has announced that he will come back for his senior season at the University of Georgia. Kendall is a junior tailback. He's had some injuries this season, kind of limited him pretty much through the season, but he did, even with his injuries, rush for 533 yards for the season, and he had a great game against LSU in the SEC championship game. So good news. Kendall Milton will be back. He's not going into the draft. He'll be back for his senior season. So that's good news for the University of Georgia. Hey, Miss Teresa, Happy New Year to all the dogs as well. Well, yeah, I know. We try, and we have a lot of fun doing it. Glad Milton will be back. Yes, he's a quality young man too. I tell you, speaking of character, we've gotten to, interact with some of these. These are high quality people that play for the University of Georgia. Now they're young men, and young men at times will be young men. But these are high quality people. And our sources are telling us that Georgia is quietly confident about this game. And to be honest with you, for me myself, I feel pretty good about this game coming up and I don't know if that's good or bad because I'm usually saying, "Oh no, we got to play these guys." But I feel like Georgia matches up very well with Ohio State, and I think, yeah, it's the SEC against the Big Ten. Ha! So we'll see. But I feel pretty good about this game. But you know, I don't know. It's I'm as nervous as I can be already, but I'm ready to go. Let's see. We thought we'd just recap right quickly, and not to get bogged down in things. The season for Georgia, just a rundown. It just seems like yesterday we were talking about Georgia and Oregon starting the season, and here we are almost at the end of the season here with the new year coming. But quickly, just to kind of remind you, Georgia beat Georgia beat Oregon 49-3. Remember that? 49-3. Then Georgia beat Samford 33 to nothing, beat South Carolina 48-7, Kent State 39-22. By the way, just a personal note on that Kent State game. After the game, my son and I were driving home, and my alternator on my car went out. I never will forget that game. I had to call a tow truck and everything. Oh, well. Georgia beat Missouri 26-22. Remember that one? Ooh, we were kind of like, oh no. Let's see. What? Born out of the Larry Munson cap. We were out of it, but there's no way we can win. I know. I miss Larry Munson. I do. Georgia beat Auburn 42-10. Then Georgia beat Vanderbilt 55 to nothing on homecoming. Beat Florida 42-20. Georgia beat Tennessee 47-13. Remember that? Tennessee's going to beat Georgia. They're the number one team in the country. By the way, Tennessee and Clemson. We'll talk about that game in a minute. Then Georgia beat Mississippi State 45-19. Mike Leach. I miss Coach. I've been reading a lot of stories about Mike Leach and the effect that he had on people and just the unique character that he was. Man, he's going to be missed. Then Georgia beat Kentucky 16-6. Then Georgia beat Georgia Tech 37-14. Georgia wins the Southeastern Conference Championship game 50-30 over LSU. And now coming up Saturday. Oh boy, we got Georgia and Ohio State. Never lick your fingers when you're that's like broadcast rule number 17. Don't do that. Just quickly going over and reminding you, Georgia had a pretty good recruiting. The early recruiting day was not last week. Georgia had a pretty good time in the early recruiting time period. Georgia stacked up number 2 recruiting class in the country. Alabama with number 1. And by the way, did some studying on Alabama's recruits and Georgia's recruits, and Alabama had a fantastic. Georgia had a fantastic class. Alabama had a fantastic plus class, especially if you count the, especially if you count the 5 stars. But just a reminder, Georgia did very well. Damon Harris, 5-star edge rusher, 6'4", 230. AJ Harris, cornerback. Um, Samuel Mempimba. And yeah, we're going to have to learn how to pronounce that one. Samuel Mempimba, Jonel Aguero. Anyway, looking down through the list of recruits for Georgia, I just, a tremendous class. Kirby Smart was very, very happy. And commendations to the Georgia staff for recruiting. Oh my goodness. Does Georgia ever know how to recruit? Plus, two guys in the transfer portal. Yeah, Dale, we got some great transfer. Rara Thomas from Mississippi State, their leading receiver, is coming to Georgia through the portal, and Dominic Lovett, leading receiver for Missouri, will be is in the portal and will be coming to the University of Georgia. So Carson Beck, who is the heir apparent to Stetson Bennett, Carson Beck will have some guys to throw to. Now, just some of the results from the bowl games. Going on right now is Florida State and Oklahoma in the Cheez-It Bowl. I like Cheez-Its. I like the extra crispy Cheez-Its. That's going on right now. Later on tonight, Washington versus number 20, Texas in the Alamo Bowl. That'll be in the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. Hey, Mr. Risa. Good transfers. Looking forward to seeing you. Okay. Yeah. Good points. Tomorrow now, there's some good games tomorrow. Good bowl games tomorrow. Duke's Mayo Bowl. That'll be at noon. That'll be North Carolina State versus Maryland. Then you got the Sun Bowl. UCLA versus Pitt. That'll be at 2:00 tomorrow. Then you have the Gator Bowl. Now, the Gator Bowl is a great bowl game. It's South Carolina, number 19 South Carolina versus number 21 Notre Dame. That's tomorrow at 3:30 in Jacksonville, Florida. The Gator Bowl. The Arizona Bowl comes up at 4:30 tomorrow. That'll be Ohio versus Wyoming. Okay. And then tomorrow night at 8 p.m., it's the South Carolina Bowl. Actually, it's the Orange Bowl, but it's Tennessee, number 6 Tennessee against number 7 Clemson. And guess which team beat both of those teams to basically knock them out of any chance of going to the college football playoffs? South Carolina. Now, that'll be a good game, don't you think? Tennessee versus Clemson. Man, I love this time of the year. Looking at stats on Michigan, yeah. Well, I tell you, Jeff, I tell you the key for me, the key to this game. All right. Thank you, Teresa. The key to the game against Georgia and Ohio State is going to be in the trenches. Like most games of this type are settled. Who's going to control the line of scrimmage? And, think Ohio State and Tennessee. Connect the two. Ohio State has a high-powered offense. Tennessee had a similar high-powered. Now, the offenses are completely different in their schemes, but they're similar in the fact that they're high-powered. And Georgia handled Tennessee by keeping everything in front of them. They did not allow Tennessee to throw over the top. And the defensive line for Georgia won the line of scrimmage and put pressure on Hendon Hooker. That same kind of thing needs to happen against Ohio State. You don't want to give C.J. Stroud any time, to find the Harrison kid, and the other talented receivers from Ohio State. You want to put pressure on C.J. Stroud. Your defensive backs need to play excellent. Keep everything in front of them. That is what happened with Georgia and Tennessee, and it worked. and it's what needs to work against Ohio State. That's my humble opinion about that. Saturday, here's the Saturday lineup of games. You have the Fiesta Bowl Saturday at 4 p.m. Michigan versus TCU. That's Saturday. Oh boy. That'll be on ESPN. State Farm Stadium, Glendale, Arizona. Then you have the Peach Bowl. College football playoff semifinal. Number 1, Georgia. Number 4, Ohio State. 8 p.m., Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That's on Saturday, right? Is that, oh, you gave me these? Okay. Also on Saturday. Also on Saturday, you have the Music City Bowl, Iowa versus Kentucky. That'll be at noon on Saturday. And you have the Sugar Bowl. Now, what do you think about the Sugar Bowl? Number 5, Alabama versus number 9, Kansas State. That'll be at noon on ESPN. What do you think about that? Alabama versus Kansas State. I think Alabama is going to be revved up for this game. I think Alabama's going to, want to run up the score to make a point in this game. I think they will. I think, Alabama's a little, ticked off a little bit. On Monday, January 2nd, you have Mississippi State versus Illinois. It's Monday, January 2nd. That's at noon. 1 p.m. you have on Monday, you have LSU versus Purdue, the Cotton Bowl Classic. Also on Monday at 1 p.m. on ESPN, USC versus Tulane. Interesting game. The Rose Bowl game is on Monday, January 2nd. That's number 8 Utah versus number 11 Penn State. Then on Monday, January 9th, you have the college football playoff national championship game, 7:30. Georgia versus who? Georgia versus who? All this time off will favor or hurt Georgia or Ohio State. I think one factor, and I don't know how much of a factor it's going to be. Georgia, this will be the third game that Georgia's played in Mercedes-Benz Stadium this season. Almost as many games there as they played in Athens. So this will be the third game that Georgia's played in Mercedes-Benz Stadium this season. Ohio State's never played in Mercedes-Benz. Now, does that make a difference? I don't know. Familiarity, it may make a difference for Georgia. I don't think the layoff hurts or helps anybody, to be honest with you. It helps in the sense that some of the guys can get healthy. I think it'll hurt maybe in a little execution early in the game. But I tell you, the way Georgia practices, you've heard of Bloody Tuesdays. I mean, Georgia number ones go against each other. Number 1 defense, number 1 offense. And when Georgia's number 1 offense is playing their number 1 defense, Georgia's number 1 offense is playing the number 1 defense in the country. So I don't know if the layoff is going to favor or hurt either team particularly. I think it has helped some guys get well, for both teams who've had some injuries. There might be a slight, I don't know. It's kind of hard. It's a metric that's hard to understand. About is being in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, is that going to be in favor for Georgia? I don't know. I've watched a lot of these bowl games, and the game. Let's see, Oregon State beat Florida 30-3. Okay, so Florida had a kind of a disastrous season, he said with a tear in his eye. Um, some of these games, some of these bowl games, the Arkansas game against Kansas, that was a good game. 3 overtimes. The Oregon game, where Oregon won over North Carolina, 28-27. That was cool. Texas Tech beat Ole Miss today, 42-25. And what in the world, Lane Kiffin? I don't, Lane Kiffin. I mean, he's going for it on 4th down, deep in his own territory. I don't know what Lane was doing. He was having fun, I guess. Doesn't matter where we play, we will still win. Michael, I believe the same thing. That is my belief. 34-17. That's my projected score. By the way, Minnesota beat Syracuse at Yankee Stadium in the Pinstripe Bowl. And so, yeah, there's 100 bowls, but some good bowl games coming up tonight and through tomorrow. Well, listen, it's been fun being with you guys. Michael Smith has a prediction on the game. He says 36-20. I assume Georgia. That's what he's saying. I assume Georgia will win. Jeff Horton. Will there be a lot of penalties? Georgia is one of the least penalized teams in the country. I don't know the statistic on Ohio State. I didn't look that up. You could have, and hopefully there'll be no penalties that will be a deciding factor in the game. But you could have some penalties. So Michael Smith, he likes my prediction, 34-17. And Michael says, yes, he is picking the dog. 34-17. I predicted that for Georgia against Alabama last year, and I've predicted it several times. Hey, every time I say 34-17, Georgia wins. So I'm sticking with it. Russell, my man, how's it going? Looking and sounding good. Well, I don't know. I have a face for radio, but I don't know. I don't know. Russell, it's always good to hear from our good friend Russell Guest. Well, listen, guys, we're going to get out of here. And I don't know what our Grady's got a score for us. What has he got? 38-3. Well, you go. Grady Darcy said we're gonna hold on to this thing. We're gonna suppress the Ohio State offense and hold it to 3 points. All right, Grady, I'm with you, man. Let's go for it. But we're going to be with you. I don't know if will we try to do anything tomorrow night, only if there's breaking news, only if they're breaking news. So we'll probably be with you sporadically on Saturday. I know we'll do something before the Michigan game, in anticipation of that game with TCU. And then we'll do something after the Michigan game in preparation for the Georgia game, and then we'll do a halftime thing, and then we'll do a something after the game with Georgia, which will probably be in 2023. Oh, there you go. Mac has a prediction: 38-14 Bulldogs. Hey, pretty close to me. So there you go. I feel pretty good about it. I think Georgia's going to win. I tell you what, I think key to this game and a lot of games like this is the first minutes of the first quarter and the first minutes of the third quarter. Those are critical times when a team can really sock it to another team, especially if you have some mistakes and fumbles and things like that. I think that'll be critical. But by the way, and be sure to check out again. Our podcast that we've had with the and I think Matt Hall has put up the link to our podcast with Champ Bailey, who is the honorary captain for the University of Georgia, and Champ, a good friend of ours. I hate to be a name dropper, but a good friend of ours and a partner with Dogs on Demand. And by the way, our little concern. One of these days we'll do a show on how all this started. But we got some irons in the fire are pretty exciting. Michael says we're going to repeat. Oh, we're going to three-peat. Hey, I like it. I like it. Hey, you keep stacking in these recruits, and you have the coaching staff that Georgia has, and you get stuck guys through the portal and that kind of thing. Stack them up and let's go. Quincy coming in, go Dogs, beat them Buckeyes. Absolutely. All right, guys, we're going to get out of here, and I'm going to go watch some football. I'm going to get me some supper, and I'm going to watch me some football, and I'm getting ready. I'm getting ready. It's an exciting time of the year. Hope you all had a great Christmas. And hey, we're getting ready for a new year coming up. So God bless you all. We'll be talking to you again soon. The excitement is growing. But still, Jonathan says Georgia will win the game. Help us with recruiting in 2024. We're already off to a good, a good start in 2024 recruits as well. Ready, Max says. All right, good deal. And go Dogs, indeed. All right, guys, have a good night. We'll talk to you again soon, and we'll close our program. Thank you to Southeast Mortgage, by the way, the official home loan lender of the Georgia Bulldogs, whether it's 2022 or 2023. You can, if you need to finance or refinance your home, check out Southeast Mortgage, the official home loan lender of the Georgia Bulldogs. Go to southeastmortgage.com/UGA, and you'll find all the information you need when it comes time to do that very important thing in your life. Southeast Mortgage, we love those guys. We appreciate their support. All right, we'll be back with you very, very soon. What? Okay, I got you. All right, we'll be back with you very soon. Go Dogs! That's how we'll end our program, as always.